broadcasting, and I'm going to make you the presenter. Can someone give us a thumbs up if John's screen is now broadcasting?
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like we are ready to go.
Great. So, the purpose of this meeting is this is kind of the end of the high-level planning part of quarterly planning, in that we kind of met together as a team, we talked about all the ideas, then each individual team went off and tried to figure out from the brainstorming that everybody brought together, which of those ideas did we think we should be working on in next quarter. And Adam set it up really well this time, I thought, in that it was like the team lead, sometimes there's more of the engineers in the team, sometimes less, and oftentimes, usually a tech lead from other screens. So, other screens, I'm sorry, I'm reading at the same time as I'm talking. A tech lead from other teams to make sure that we're kind of all aware of what's going on technically on the other teams and ensure that we can have synergy.
Co-creation, ideation.
Yeah, buzzword.
No, seriously.
No, but it was really great, and it was really interesting to see where there are rooms for cooperation. So,
John Hobbs just pointed out.
Yeah, Adam, are you looking into that?
Yeah, I'm clicking buttons. Okay, looks like we're good to go.
Yeah, it's usually like a 30-second delay. So the purpose of this meeting really is to read back to the rest of the team the results of basically the quarterly planning high level, so that we all know what it is that the reading team is doing and why we're doing it. And so we'll go by one, and unless Toby, you want to add anything to that?
No, thank you guys for really owning this. Really great to see. Thank you.
Cool. So on the web team, the way we thought about next quarter on the web team was that we wanted to not add to the works in progress, because we already had a number of things in beta, in the beta channel, or like works in progress that hadn't yet been productionized. And so for the most part, we wanted to limit ourselves to looking at those. And of those, hover cards really jumped out as the best opportunity for having, for being a successful productionized version and providing the most value to our users. And so that's really kind of like the thinking. We can I don't want to bore you with all the details of why hover cards is awesome and ready to go, but essentially it's been in beta for about 1.5 years. It's mostly ready to go out the door. The community seems to be mostly warm towards it, and we have a lot of data showing that users are pretty excited about it. So I'm going to actually spend the rest of March working with the community to figure out whether or not this is in fact the case, that we are going to be able to ship it if we fix up the remaining issues before we move into the quarter, so that we don't get kind of halfway through the quarter and realize that there's a lot of opposition. I don't want to have that experience. So that's one of the things I'm working on now to get that ready. John, do you want to speak about the load time and the load time work that you guys are going to be shipping in Q4? The continuation of the stuff you're doing this quarter at Stable?
To be honest, I was hoping we'd ship it this quarter.
That's good.
My quarters. There might be some hangover from the stuff we're doing, but it seems like we're getting close to the end of that right now.
So one comment on that is I would really very much like to raise the visibility of this. I think it's a huge deal. Thank you guys for taking it on. I would like people to understand that the web team is doing things that are good for all of our readers, especially new readers. So I'll work with comms and Bashir to see what we can do here. Maybe you can, John.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Should we go into Android? Or actually, any questions on the web before we move on? This is a good time to be like, why aren't we doing this? Or what about this concern I have around hover cards or increasing speed? Or you can always email offline or chat. Cool.
I guess it's worth just mentioning that none of the team has currently worked on the HoverCards extension, so there's a bit of risk in terms of getting up to speed with how that's written. And there was I mean, I haven't even reviewed the code, so I don't know what state it's in.
Maybe there's steps we can take in March to mitigate that by having a review session and just going through it. Thanks. I'll make note of that. Great. Dimitri, you want to go through Android?
Yeah, sure. You guys can hear me, right? Sorry, I had some Hangout issues earlier.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so in Android, we're going to be working on feeds, and this is something that the iOS team has done this quarter. We really want to get it done on the Android side, not just for the purpose of having feature parity with iOS, but because it just makes so much sense as a feature. Right now, the main page experience in the app just shows the daily featured article from Wikipedia, which is fine, but it's not likely to be very relevant for the user, and yet that's the first thing you see when you launch the app. So we have a huge opportunity to capture the user's attention right there and make them want to come back to the app again. And today, mobile users have gotten very familiar with the feed metaphor, and it's a very simple and efficient way of delivering reading suggestions that are actually relevant to the user. So we'll have suggestions based on previous reading history, trending articles, nearby articles, all that good stuff. And we hope that it'll drive user retention. And we'll also put extra emphasis on sharing of the feed content. So more links will be shared, and it'll help drive engagement with more readers that way as well. And that's it for Android.
Any questions on Android? Comments? Cool. Josh, you want to take us through all this?
Sure. So today was the public launch of the 5.0 release. So obviously that's got a massive amount of changes and new features. So a big part of what we're going to be doing is just reserving bandwidth to see how those features perform, and user feedback, and dealing with bug fixes and follow-up work. So that's not on here, but that's going to be a big focus of the team. And then kind of following on from the larger kind of retention story that Dimitri highlighted as one of the main drivers of the feed feature, we're going to be completing the work on universal links. So currently in the app, if you have saved or read a page on the app, and then you run a search in Spotlight or in the OS level search on iOS, it will show you the results in the app, and you can open them in the app. But if you have not previously read the article or saved it, you don't get those results. So basically this would just enable it so that any Wikipedia search would be openable in the app. And it doesn't promote the app or show a banner or anything like that. It's just basically if you have the app installed and you prefer to use the app, it's a way to re-enter the app through OS level search. And since search is one of our main drivers of usage, we just want to make it easy for people to re-enter the app that prefer that experience. So that's our top level goal. Any questions, comments?
Okay. On the infrastructure side of things, there will be there'll be some work around carrying over the session manager and auth manager stuff that's in flight at the moment. So the team will certainly be addressing feedback in Q4. We are looking at options right now for what might actually become like a front-end center goal. Some options might include the key value storage concept, or focusing on mobile templating, or some mixture of those two things. And I will pass the mic back to John Katz.
Drew, do you want to touch on this two-factor auth project? I know that we were talking to a volunteer. I don't know where that went.
Yeah, so we have two main goals for infrastructure for Q4. One is finishing up the house manager project, and that includes deploying two-factor authentication for administrators at least, and it includes dealing with bugs and any kind of surprises that come up, performance issues, judging from session manager that might take a while. The other main goal is looking at using styles in templates. John Robson had an old RFC about that, and we want to investigate how easy it is to implement it. So basically, find a way to make templates mobile friendly.
So I would be remiss. Thanks, Gregor. I would be remiss. Brian Davis has told me this enough times that I need to say it. Like, there's also a community component to that, right? Because we're sort of creating a technology, but we need editors to use it, and exactly understanding how that will work and how it will be staffed, I think, is still, like, this is definitely it's a technical investigation.
Yeah.
We need to figure out how to staff the community stuff on this. This is something that we think is tractable.
So I don't know if Danny's on the YouTube or not, but I think his goals are actually pretty straightforward, and they've been kind of well communicated out throughout the org and the community already. But essentially, they're working through the wish list, survey top 3, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I think actually it would be good to name what these actual wishes are. I know that when I've asked, I assumed that they would do the top 3, and this isn't what actually happened. For a couple of good reasons. The first is that there are actually some community members working on the wishes, and as Danny puts it, it's not our role to dash the hopes and dreams of community developers. So they're sort of supporting those, but not necessarily taking them on. And they also are picking wishes that they feel like they can handle, that they can actually do. I think there's always a risk that there would be wishes that would be very difficult for that team to take on. We had always talked about making sure that they picked relatively quick wins, at least initially, to build trust, and then they would have more credibility to take on larger sort of multi-quarter things. So that's basically how that's playing out.
Great. That's all we had planned for this conversation, but if you have any questions or about either the items or the process, yeah, definitely now's a good time to talk, or we can do it offline. And we'll be starting Q planning for Q5, quarterly planning for Q5 in like a week or so.
Yeah, totally. Get on that. The mic must have gone out again.